Let's do this faster than ever before. What's up, guys? I'm Pencil here, and here I'm going to do a quick review of chapter 159 of Four Knights of the Apocalypse, which is known as Within His Arms. Let's not waste any more time. Let's hop right into it. Editing me. Are you ready? If you are, please tell me. 3, 2, 1, go. What's up, guys? That guy with a pencil here. And fun fact, I do mean to have it on and keep it on me at all times. Then another fun fact, yes, I'm experimenting. Yes, there'll be full reviews of both these chapters because there's a lot to talk about. Yes, I am doing this solely for the bee. Mainly because I want to see how much I can do in literally 10 minutes. So let's not waste any more time. Let me start this 10-minute timer right now. Okay, the big focal points of this chapter. I think this does kind of, I mean, not 100%, but especially this in combination with the previous chapter that I've yet to go and retroactively review, this chapter, 100, 1 billion, quintillion, duodecillion, kind of confirms the idea that chaos has taken over. And that's not Arthur. I don't like that at all. I'm sorry, Arthur turning evil, while it would be hard to write, I'll readily admit, not my very detail. Do I like that Kay found himself envious yet could not hate Arthur because Arthur was a genuinely good person, to the point where Arthur was genuinely willing to hand over the rights to Camelot and hand over everything and then even defend his brother while he was literally in prison for lying to their father? Yeah, I love that. I love that Arthur's getting this characterization. Especially considering Arthur in the original series, despite the whole basis of the series, Arthurian mythology being named for Arthur, he's barely a character in the original series. If you compile all of Arthur's screen time, it may be 10 chapters. Which in some manga is a lot, but when your manga's over 300 chapters long, not including any of the side materials, yeah, Arthur's characterization in the original series is somewhat lacking, but seeing the kindness and purity of this man and comparing it to the Chaos King, it just doesn't seem right. And that's what even Kay notes. That is the kind of person Arthur is. There's never been so kind a king and so noble. So why then? Why aren't you going to report us to him? Because what you see now isn't at all the Arthur I know. So, like, once again, this in combination with how he treats Meliodas and how he's treating the rest of the world, and the idea that we just didn't really get to see much of his development, or at least an understanding of his development of what happened off screen, I kind of don't like it. I don't like it because I want Arthur to be evil. I don't want it to just be chaos. I'll be honest. Don't get me wrong. Can chaos be an interesting character unto its own? Yeah, of course. If we can actually get chaos as a character, but he's wearing Arthur's face. Or it's wearing Arthur's face. And that's okay. But ultimately, I'm still seeing Arthur. Even if this is all retroactive character development for chaos and their own thoughts and their own beliefs and how they would run a kingdom and so on and so forth, ultimately, that's still Arthur. But not Arthur. So simultaneously, I'm getting chaos characterization, but it's not the kind of chaos characterization I would want. I would want chaos to be his own villain, or preferably, I just want Arthur to be the villain. Let him be evil. Let's spin the narrative and do it well, Nakaba. I know you can. You went from Esterosa, a character who I liked, but I didn't necessarily care too much about, and made him one of the best written characters in the series in the span of like 5 chapters. Esterosa's arc isn't really that long. Like, if you go retroactively and reread it, like specifically the arc that explains his twist from Mael to Esterosa and vice versa, it's not actually that long. But for that, Mael, as much as I slander him in a power scaling sense, he's still one of the best characters in the series. So Nakaba, I know you can do it. Go further in depth. Explain how Arthur fell down this path over these 16 years. You can do it, Nakaba. I know you can. But that's the big focal point. I do want to address that because that's the main thing that somewhat bothered me about this chapter. Then, the other thing I do want to address is I've seen a lot of people say the hypothetical implications of Merlin or a hypothetical Chaos Escanor being Gawain's grandparents is kind of cooked, and I can see it. Notably, I do actually kind of like these designs. They're just so Nakaba. They're so undeniably Nakaba that it actually tickles a part of my soul. The idea that Gawain was raised by these two because she doesn't actually have biological grandparents makes perfect sense. Kay has yet to mention a wife. Kay has yet to mention anybody who loved him. If we're being completely honest, he was literally not the fan favorite because Arthur was the fan favorite, and Arthur was introduced to him at a very, very young age. So, like, I would genuinely not be shocked if Gawain ends up being a FMA-style homunculus where she was literally made for Kay. Maybe as a last pity resort by Arthur, maybe made by Merlin, regardless. But thusly, I feel like if anything, these two tie back into Merlin. Because, hey, maybe Kay makes these things, but I highly doubt it. I'm assuming they were made by a very powerful mage, considering they are sentient to this degree. And thusly, I do believe that Merlin still has some role to play in the conception and creation of Gawain. Of course, they are still, like, freaky in some weird kind of sense, but I still do like it. Ultimately, these two things do, once again, kind of rationalize Gawain, and even her mindset, really. Because think about it, this is likely all she was raised around. These two, her grandparents, the automatons that did most of the raising, and Kay, who clearly struggles as a father, to say the very least, at least if Gawain in part 1, and even this early part of part 2, is any indication. So, I'm not shocked that Gawain is a socially awkward, confused, and especially views herself as something like them, as even though she treats them genuinely like her family and like her grandparents to the point where she's actually confused why everyone's freaking out when she sees them, I think she knows somewhat, oh, I'm like them. I may look more human, I may be more human, I may have my own innate magical abilities, but ultimately, I'm just like them, and that bothers me. Because I am separate from them in the sense that I do identify myself as one of the ants, one of the Nasians, one of the Donnies, a human. No, I didn't include Percy in that. And one thing I will admit, here's the major point I like about this chapter. I do like how Percy not necessarily absolves Kay of anything, but mainly tells Kay that it's okay. Honestly, at this point, Kay understands that he's wrong. And he's not the best of parents, not the best source of influence for Gawain. But with that being the case, Percy kind of tells him, no, you may have not been the best of dads, but what does that even mean? At least you didn't try to slaughter your kid just like my dad did me. And ultimately, well, it may have looked ugly, but that apple you grew sure tasted good. And Gawain's an incredible person. I can trust her all the way. You truly are a strange young man. You said it. Once again, Percy, the purest MC to ever MC, the sweetest boy to ever boy. But with that being the case, seeing Percy's care for Gawain and sort of telling Kay, dude, you may not understand what you did. I may not even be your real daughter for real, but ultimately you did good. Just as with that apple, just as you find yourself not that good at gardening, you may not find yourself that good at parenting, but ultimately the cream of your crop, this, when you reap what you sow, you created something good. Created something fantastic. A person that Percy trusts all the way. Now, of course, what that means is vague, especially considering it's Percy, and not the highest of praise. You kind of trust everybody. But still, I think that's extra high praise coming from this version of Percy. Because I still don't fully trust this one. I've seen a lot of people debating whether or not this is just Jigglyval, or I call him Zaza, because his name, quote unquote, was Zorula Endu. But hypothetically, this Percy is clearly much more knowledgeable and much more dangerous than the Percy in part 1. So the fact that he's still going out of his way to praise Kay on something like this, especially since he may or may not know if Gawain is listening, that is nice. And once again, shows how this Percy is different, yet still core deeply tied to the proper Percy. That I do like. I like the characterization of Percy, I like the characterization of Kay, I like the characterization of Arthur, I like the characterization of Gawain, and I like the history and how her grandparents, while obviously mostly a funny bit on the surface level, can directly feed into the idea of, she was raised by unnatural inorganic creatures. Kay doesn't have any sort of wife around and has yet to mention one passing away. There's no one else here but these automatons, Gawain and Kay. Kay's disconnected from the rest of Camelot, including his own brother, due to his disagreements with his brother, or what he thinks isn't his brother. I wonder where Gawain could come from, especially when she has identity. So far, everything's sort of been rolling, stockpiling on Gawain as a character. And I really, really like that. Once again, especially for a character who was introduced and I say very late into part 1, I think like the 70s. She's not real good. Overall, I'd say I find her arc and her history much more interesting than Tristan, but in Tristan's defense, his parents were the main characters of the previous series, and he wasn't introduced until, like, the 50 chapter mark into part 1. So, I can't necessarily blame Tristan, but at the same time, Boogaroo's kind of wackadoodle-doo. But, with that being the case, I'm also interested in what the next steps for them are beyond the Cauldron of Onfwyn. This chapter sort of sets up the idea that Arthur needs to be saved, but how is Tristan going to feel about that? How is Lance going to feel about that? How is anyone else not named Percy going to feel about that? Heck, even to a certain degree, how does Percy feel about that? Because nobody Percy spends a lot of time comforting, well, not a lot of time, he spends the end of the chapter comforting specifically Kay. But he makes very little comment on Arthur. He asks why you're going to report us to him. But particularly, he's like, don't worry, you did a fine job. Yeah, guy. And the reason I say that so much, even though Lance seemed to be okay with saving Arthur in part 1, is because he seemed to be okay with saving Arthur in part 1. Before the end of it. Before Percy off himself because of one of Arthur's men, and sent Lance on a violent rampage, and then sent him into a depression. So overall, we're in a very interesting spot by the end of this very chapter alone. I only have 8 seconds left, so overall I'd give the chapter pretty much a solid 10 out of 10. I like how much is stuff into this chapter, and it's why I want to do a much longer review to talk about it more in depth, but time is up. If you made it all the way to the end of this video, it's barely 12 minutes, but with it being the case, if you made it all the way to the end of this video, please do me a favor and leave Hopeful Sun. I think I've already used that one. We'll try. Leave Hopeful Sun in the comment section down below. I'd like to thank you so much for watching. Please remember to leave a like, share, comment, and subscribe. And make sure you hit that little notification bell so you don't miss out on every other second of the channel. Also I do want to have a Patreon below where you can support me for as low as $1 a month. Things like exclusive videos, early content, and more. You also now become a member of the channel for as low as $3 a month to get the same perks and more. Some of those perks include the live reaction to this very chapter, and free variations of all my videos, and if you become a $25 patron or a $25 member, you can order whatever video you want. Also, I do have a link to my Ko-Fi in the description down below where you can drop 5 beans for a short video, 20 beans for a long video, or any beans at all. Any support is always greatly appreciated. Now, I'd like to thank you so much for watching once again, and I hope you guys have a wonderful day. This is That Guy with the Pencil, writing off. I'd like to give a thank you to our $3 members: Sarah, Greyhound, Eternal Flame, NMA, Real Rare, Red Wolf 4765, Paris Arnold, Astro, Brandon Payne, and G Prosper. And I'd like to give a thank you to our $5 patrons: Sean, Midnight Lord 21, Kevin, Encarnacion, Josh Brown, Igneal Lind, and A+A. And I'd like to give a big old thank you to our $7 members: Autumn Mornings Lazo, Fine, Zombie Hunter, and Austin Wimberly. Then I'd like to give a thank you to our $10 members: Robbie Uchiha, Jay Warrior, and AZ Void. Then I'd like to give a big old thank you to our $10 patrons: Overlord Zero, Joaquin Munoz, and Idem Okami.
And I'd like to give the craziest, juiciest, most next-level, quadruple, sloppy, toppy, next-level, superhuman, in beyond this world, kidney having thank you to our $100 patron, or That Guy with a Pencil tier patron, Calvin Elder.